Hi everyone, thanks for joining Oh Sugar. I'm your host Elise Gamble, and today we're going to be talking about what is diabetes, and specifically what is type 1. So grab your juice boxes and let's go. Tuning in. Today we're going to be doing some multitasking, just like most of us do in our daily lives. My son here refuses to be put down, so he's going to be my co-host today. So let's start out with a little bit of a conversation about just general what is diabetes. Well, diabetes is when your blood sugar gets too high. And there's a whole bunch of different types of diabetes, but we're going to talk about the main three. Which is gestational, type 2, and type 1. Essentially, type 2 and gestational are very similar. They are when your body cannot create or is resisting the type of insulin or how much insulin it's using. Let me start by saying, let's back up. I am not a medical professional, and I do not claim to be, and please seek medical advice from your own doctor. But this is what has been broken down for me by my doctors, and so this is just like a regurgitated summary for you. So yes, type 2 is where you are resisting the insulin that your body is making. Then there's a whole bunch of other types like the LADA, type 1.5, a whole bunch of other weird ones. But type 1 is where your body's beta cells are creating insulin, but they just start attacking themselves and they don't really know why that happens. And so you're unable to produce insulin anymore. So here is a very well drawn picture of where the pancreas is. When I first started to have diabetes, I was like, oh my gosh, well, I don't even know what the pancreas does or where it's located. So here is my drawing for you. And then here is also a drawing of what it looks like with a healthy pancreas versus a diabetic pancreas. You can see the type 1 diabetic pancreas is your body is either not producing enough insulin or none at all, and so your body is unable to take the insulin, and the insulin is what moves your glucose, all the sugars that you eat, the carbohydrates, through into your cells, and your cells are like hungry for this energy, which are your carbohydrates and your glucose. So if your body is not getting enough of that, you're going to be really tired, you're going to be thirsty, you're going to be really hungry, which are all symptoms of why you're having diabetes. And you're losing weight because your cells are not getting the nutrients that they need. For me, I was an ice cream-aholic. I was just eating buckets of ice cream, and that is not a literal exaggeration, just buckets of ice cream. And again, I thought that was all my pregnancy symptoms, but turns out just diabetes. So I want to start by saying that type 1 diabetes is very small percentage of the people that have diabetes. It's between 5 and 10%. 90 to 95% of the population has type 2. And type 2 is, you can help treat it or prevent it through lifestyle changes. A lot of it is genetics. It can be prevented or delayed. Type 1, it's either environmental or like a virus or something, or sometimes they think there might be a link to genetics. The only cure right now, it's not a cure, it's a management, is through insulin. A lot of times people call type 1 the juvenile or young people's diabetes, and that's not necessarily always true. Although a lot of people are diagnosed when they're younger, there are people like me who are diagnosed when they are pregnant or in their 30s. So, and with type 1, you can have symptoms for a significant amount of time, and you can go for a while without actually being diagnosed if you don't actually go and to get tested, especially if you have no family history or reason to believe that you would even have it. Some of the complications you can have with being a diabetic are you can have heart and blood vessel issues, nerve damage, meaning like your hands, your feet, your arms. So you've got to really make sure you manage your sugars so that you are, taking care of all of those nerves, so you don't have to have amputations. Your kidneys obviously can have significant impacts. Your eyes, when I first was diagnosed and they brought my sugars back down, I couldn't see for like 2 weeks because it does affect the fluids in your eyes. Your feet, that's a big trigger point for some people. If you get like a wound on your foot, it takes a lot longer to heal. You can have skin issues, and then also being pregnant carries a whole host of other issues. So, and then for some people, there is this phase where you're in this honeymoon, which is a horrible term, but it's where your body is still like shooting out little bits of insulin. So it's like, oh, maybe I don't have diabetes. And it's like, you really do. Your pancreas is just still, hasn't completely killed all of its beta cells that make the insulin. So you want to make sure that you take care of your sugars, you're making it a priority, you are taking care of your mental health, because it is pretty devastating diagnosis to get, because it does change your entire life. You're constantly monitoring your sugars, monitoring your carbs, what you're eating. So make sure that you are exploring your options with doctors, with different, like your CGM or your pump. Make sure that you're getting the best thing that's good for you. And then finally, there's some other diabetes called diabetes insipidus versus diabetes mellitus. Mellitus is the type 1, type 2. Insipidus, I think I'm saying that right, is not really related to diabetes at all. I'm not really sure why they call it diabetes, but it's just where your kidneys produce extra urine, so you're urinating a lot. So I guess it's the same symptoms. Some of the places that I have found that have been really helpful to go for resources are the American Diabetes Association and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And then there's also a ton of support groups on Facebook. The one that was most helpful for me was the Type 1 Diabetic and Pregnancy, which obviously doesn't apply to all of you, but really great forums for people to say, hey, I'm really struggling here. And then people will reach out to you and say, hey, how can I help? They're going through it too. So yeah, that's my simple rundown of Diabetes 101. So hopefully that was helpful for you. And I would love to hear your experiences as well. So please share those in the comments. Thanks.